Gorilla Mode, seeing Anthony Richardson getting a lot of hype. Is this just media this time of year, or do either of you like him as a top 10 pick?
Man,
I feel like we towed the line of production and potential with KP nicely.
Gorilla Mode. You've answered the question. We do this they do this every single year. You remember when Malik Willis shot up the charts around this time as well, man. This is what they do. They start posting a couple of pics, a couple of vids on the social media, dude scrambling around in the pocket, jump over a guy, make a throw, and you're like, oh, man, this is the type of athlete I want at quarterback. Man, this dude's a mix of Cam Newton and Josh Allen. This dude can do this and that.
I said Russ and Vic for Willis last year.
You did. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is Zach Wilson. The throw of the combine. This guy is elite. He can do everything. We do this every single year. Every single year. Them games was played. He played a lot of games. We know what that tape looked like. It was not always as consistent as some of the highlights that get circulated around this time of year. The big issue is always what we have morphed our view of quarterbacks into. We look at them as the gods of football. You have to do whatever you can to find one of these guys. Even when we laugh about it, when we go back and look and say, man, we will take a risk on this guy because he plays quarterback, but this guy could be dominant at his position, and we're not going to view him the same because he don't play quarterback. We do this every year. Anthony Richardson is one of those guys that, yeah, the hype will work, but if you take him, the inconsistency will show. Is he talented? Absolutely. But all of these dudes are talented. That's not the question. The question is, can you consistently read this defense? Can you consistently have your footwork right? Can you consistently release the ball when you need to? Decision making, that type of stuff. Not saying he's not a dope player, but when we're talking about top 10 picks and what that comes with, I'm not saying that for him, man. I personally don't feel like that. But by the end of this draft process, man, they're going to have talked this man into being the number 1 overall selection. Because that's what we do during this time of year, man.
I looked at some of his highlights. His throwing motion is like Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Then I looked at his stats.
It's not like Mahomes.
Mm-hmm. I was like, what? Why isn't this dude going number 1 overall? Holy hell.
Yeah.
I don't think any of those other 3 dudes, Levis, Young,
they
or
can't
Stroud,
do that.
can
They
throw
can't do
like
that.
Richardson.
Nah,
Look, the stats, 17 touchdowns, 9 picks, 53 completion percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Even Levis, I think he was like at a 64, 65.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not known to be like this pocket passer that could just dagger you up. And then you have Bryce. I think Bryce Young's in the 60s, Stroud's in the 60s. So
you look at all
that's definitely something that raises concerns.
Mm-hmm. It's like, man, you look at Anthony Richardson and the size looks great. Like I said, the arm strength, the athletic ability looks great. But when you talk about cutting the tape on, it's inconsistent. You look at C.J. Stroud. He looked good this season. You cut on the Georgia tape, he looks like he should be a top 5 pick. But then you look at some of the other games, and that's where it's like, man, what am I really getting with that?
Yeah, his last year was a little bit better than this
I would
previous
agree.
one.
I would agree. But then you also think, who was he throwing to last year? Who was the pieces that were around him last year? And that's some of the knock when you talk Ohio State quarterbacks. And then now you're starting to see them turn on Bryce Young a little bit and getting on his size. Man, is he too small to play in the league? Is he going to be big enough to handle this thing? This is what we do during this time of year with these quarterbacks, man. But shout out to them quarterbacks, man. I do wish them all the best. Who knows? Maybe we might be in the market for one in the middle. Yeah, in the middle rounds. If Mason and Mitch aren't on this roster,
right.
Okay, yeah. We can't just turn our head to it now.
Yeah, it might have done Richardson better to stay back for a year, but it's hard to argue if you're gonna be drafted in the first round. Sometimes
that's
too,
money, bro. Yeah.
Like if he's not drafted in the top 10, and most have him projected past that, teens to maybe in the 20s.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the better situation to go to than being drafted in the top 10. Because you're
absolutely,
going to a team
Yeah.
that was around 500, maybe even made the playoffs. They're just looking for a quarterback for the long term, and then you could kind of fit in. And almost like the Chiefs whenever they drafted Mahomes. Although they drafted Mahomes, I don't know if they traded up for him, right?
Yeah, but he was still at the back end of that first, though, I thought.
Yeah, they traded up, but they already had like an Alex Smith, and I think the Chiefs were making the playoffs with that unit already.
They
think of Lamar Jackson going to the Ravens. Aaron
Flacco was
Rodgers
already there.
Aaron Rodgers went to the Packers late. Like that was probably one of the best
Yeah.
things for him to fall. Although he probably wasn't happy sitting out those first 3 seasons, but still, go to a good organization. We could all agree Packers are a good organization.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be interested to see. He's gonna have some crazy ass throw in this combine.
Of course. I wouldn't expect anything less.
He definitely will.
Yeah. Like this time of year, but this is also when And it's funny too when we talked about Kenny's workout the other day. I felt like people that took that, it was like, yo, most hate off-season workouts. I'm like, how y'all get that from just my reaction? But anywho, this is also why, like, when we talk combine and pro days and stuff like that, why I don't get over the top and hammer with these dudes throwing it. Because, like you said, man, we're going to see Anthony Richardson go out here and look insane throwing that rock. The same way Zach Wilson looked throwing that rock. But it's just different when there's no defense. There's different when there's no rush. There's different when there's no safety in the middle of the field, no corners. Are they switching the coverage up? Like, what are we looking at? Can you throw it? Yeah, but all these dudes are talented like that. And that's, you know, the thing, like when I think of those dudes, that's why I like the tape more than just what we call the underwear Olympics per se. But shout out to the combine, man, because in fact, is today the first day of the combine? I feel like people report it today. Or is tomorrow? Okay. Yeah, I was say it's around that time, man.
I think it goes from now to the weekend.
Yeah.